Straight months of really strong economic growth. We want to continue to focus on creating jobs and turning the economy around. President Obama rescued the economy from the jaws of a precipice, and we've turned things around. And now we need the Republicans to join us and stop trying to end Medicare as we know it. People in Wisconsin here have a double whammy. They've got a governor who is literally raiding an assault on workers and their families, and Paul Ryan, who's trying to pull the safety net out from under our seniors.
To what degree can the National Party be assisting in the coming weeks the recall effort in the state Senate in terms of money and bodies?
Well, we're going to be supportive. We have our OFA volunteers and activists out all across the state, and our Democratic supporters are very focused on trying to make sure that we can bring justice to the workers and the families that have really been assaulted by this governor and by these Republican state senators.
Will the party be assisting financially as well?
We are already actively involved.
What, can you put a dollar figure on that?
No, I cannot.
Debbie, with the unemployment rate so high, though, how can you say the president has turned things around? Because there's still, the economy's still bad.
If you look at where we were in the month before President Obama was inaugurated, when the economy was bleeding 750,000 jobs a month, and now you fast forward 2.5 years later, we have 14 straight months of job growth in the private sector. We have a real significant increase in job growth in the manufacturing sector. For the last 14 months, we have begun to reduce unemployment. We have more people that are going back to work, and we have absolutely no help from the Republicans. All they've been doing is trying to end Medicare as we know it, preserve tax breaks for the wealthiest. They talk about wanting to focus on deficit reduction, yet have proposed absolutely nothing other than piling all the hurt on the backs of working families, the middle class, and people who can least afford it. What we need to do is we need to engage in some shared sacrifice. Everyone is going to need to endure a little pain so we can address our deficit, our long-term deficit problems, and continue to turn the economy around. We'd love the Republicans to come to the table and join us. So far, they have refused to do that.
Mike Tate seemed to ratchet up the recall Walker statements tonight. What do you think of that?
Well, I think the rules are clear in Wisconsin. That effort can't begin before the governor's been in office for a year. I've heard quite a bit of buzz since I've been here that there's a very strong interest in doing that, and from what I sense, the voters of Wisconsin would be quite responsive to that.
Maybe how big a deal is this Libya issue? Because I know some Democrats want the president to be more clear on what he's going to do when he hasn't consulted Congress.
Well, he has consulted Congress, and I think it would not be appropriate for us to unilaterally make withdrawal decisions. That's something that the president has committed to our NATO allies. We need to make sure that we are not allowing a leader of a country like Gaddafi to murder his people. For me, as someone who believes in the concept of never again, we have to make sure that we can prevent wholesale killing of a country's citizens by its own leadership.
Congressman, can I ask you, if the Republicans are successful in retaining those some 6 seats in the Wisconsin Senate, what does that say about the current power of unions in the ballot box in the Midwest or perhaps the country?
Well, that's just a really speculative question. I think that there's going to be a robust campaign of the state have indicated that they feel very strongly that what the governor and those senators did was inappropriate, was an attack against workers. They support collective bargaining rights, and this isn't about unions. This is about working families and the lack of respect that this governor and those senators have for working families in Wisconsin.
May I ask a follow-up question? There's so much on the Wisconsin plate right now. To what degree are you concerned that so much energy will be burned, so much focus will be given to what's happening right now, that there might be a loss of some momentum, even some financial resources going into 2012 or other such things such as the presidential race itself?
Well, on the contrary, I think actually it gives us an opportunity to gear up and put our ground forces in place and make sure that we can have a really good campaign infrastructure so that when we get to 2012, we've built momentum towards helping to make sure that President Obama can win Wisconsin again.
Debbie, Congressman Wiener was supposed to be here and didn't show. How much of an issue is that? Because obviously people are joking about it. It's an embarrassment for the party. What can he do?
He's dealing with a personal matter, and that's where I think it should be left.
But is it hurting the party?
I think he's dealing with a personal matter, and that's how it should be left.
How do we best draw a distinction between the philosophy of the Republican Party and that of the Democratic Party?
Well, I think it's pretty stark contrast between the direction that the Republicans want to take this country. I mean, they've given us a preview, lifted up the curtain when they took over the House of Representatives, and made it very clear that they have interest in making sure that they can support the wealthiest Americans at the expense of the middle class and working families. I think middle class and working family-oriented voters have gotten a very clear picture, and the difference is that the Democrats under President Obama's leadership want to continue to focus on job creation, turning this economy around, making sure that we can keep people in their homes, mitigate foreclosures, make sure that we don't repeal the Affordable Care Act and put private insurance companies back in the driver's seat, make sure that we don't put Wall Street back in charge of whether or not we're going to give a balanced approach to financial services reform. It's a pretty stark difference, and I think the voters are going to be responsive to that. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.